Welcome, my name is John, and I'm just here to discuss movies on the YT. And if you'd like to join that discussion, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well. And today, I'm continuing my Zack Snyder review series. I decided to not do a monster movie this week simply because I need to have one of these weeks where I do two Zack Snyder movies in order to finish the review series before the Snyder Cut releases. So I sacrificed Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla from that review series, which I don't think many people will honestly care about that much, but oh well. If you do, I'm sorry. Anyway, today we're talking about Sucker Punch, which is a movie that has an interesting concept that I'm totally on board with a director that up until this point hadn't done anything bad or anything wrong. But that did not necessarily make a great mix here. And so let's just get started. So in Sucker Punch, you basically have this girl whose father sends her to an insane asylum after she kills her sister accidentally when she was actually trying to kill her stepfather. So the action in this movie is really good. It's probably the brightest spot is you get some awesome fun action sequences, and they're all prompted as kind of a visualization of what the characters' objectives are. So while they are kind of dream sequences, they go along with the plot and everything. The action sequences themselves, especially like the war one when they're trying to retrieve the map and everything, I thought were really good. You know, you get into the second half of the movie, I don't think the action sequences, I don't think they get better. I think they get a little worse. And then the acting is the main characters, I don't necessarily think, the women at least, are bad. I don't think their performances are bad, but they all feel like they're at an arm's length away. You don't fully feel anything from them. Like the main character, the main actress, Emily Browning, she feels like she's doing a decent job, but she just, like I was saying, feels an arm's length away. But the thing that really gets me in the acting and characters was Oscar Isaac. I love Oscar Isaac. He's a great actor. I love Poe Dameron. But this wasn't his movie. I did not like his performance in this at all. There's a couple moments where he just feels like he's hamming it up almost too much. And then just on top of that, I just think he looks awkward in this movie. Whatever that weird skinny mustache they gave him is just, I don't know. He looked bizarre. I thought his performance was a little bizarre. And then getting into the visuals, you have hyper stylized Zack Snyder visuals, almost on steroids in this movie. And it makes it an interesting movie to look at, and a very interesting movie to watch because of just the freaking visuals in the movie. It's almost like the movie itself, not just because of the visuals, but even when you get into the story and stuff, it's almost like you're watching Zack Snyder on acid or something, and it's a very interesting and visually fun movie to watch from a visual standpoint. That being said, some of the CGI and special effects look very, very video game-like to me, which can be distracting. And now getting into the story and the writing, this is a movie that I think has a great concept to write a story around when it comes to when it comes to the girls escaping from like a male-dominated brothel or whatever. When you get into like the whole mental asylum and it's all like being an imagination thing, it gets a little weird, but I still understand where they were coming from with that as well. But the concept that I really enjoyed was the fact that instead of just going this more exploitative route and just having and showing extreme, like very provocative dancing to distract the men while they retrieve the objects they need to escape, instead of just showing you the actual distracting, like, provocative dancing, instead they show you a kind of visualization of what the goal is of them dancing provocatively. So you don't actually get to see the dancing, but you get to see their goals, a visualization of their goals that doesn't necessarily exploit, like, I don't know, provocative dancing. And so I like that aspect. Instead of when they need to retrieve the map, they cut away to, like, this big war sequence, which is my favorite part of the movie. And it's about them retrieving a map from, like, a Nazi or whatever, when in all actuality, they're distracting the men so they can retrieve a map from the office and stuff. That being said, there's a lot of issues here, especially when you get into the second half. That's where it really falls apart for me, because I'm on board for, like, the first half. But that second half of the movie, it really falls apart when you get into the cook and chef stuff. And, like, the cook and chef stuff is the part that really is when I really knew this. I was going to give this a negative score, because I don't know a cook or a chef that keeps every single knife on a belt. You didn't have to distract the cook and the chef by doing all of that crap. There's got to be a silverware drawer laying around somewhere that has a knife. And now I know it's a mental institution and it's unreliable narrator and stuff, but still, that and just the whole, everything after that, it just falls apart completely. And even before that, it started to fall apart for me. It's just a movie with a good concept, initial concept, that just falls apart along the way with every sequence, falls apart a little more and a little more. That being said, this is a movie that presents a lot of interesting ideas and interesting things to think about. Because, for instance, I actually watched Bertolucci's The Dreamers, which has a lot to think about and everything, and is probably a far superior and more loved movie within, like, the cinema space. That being said, I constantly found myself thinking about this movie instead. And then lastly, the sound. This is one of those movies, on its own, I think it has a great soundtrack and sound design, but at the same time, I don't think it helps the movie itself. And so it's kind of one of those conflicting things where I do like the sound design and the soundtrack, but I don't think it necessarily benefits the movie. But it benefits the movie by making it almost a fun, bad movie to watch, but it doesn't benefit the movie in terms of making it a good movie. So overall, Sucker Punch is a movie with an interesting concept, a good director, but falls apart completely, and a good, interesting concept ends up being done terribly. That being said, it's fun to watch visually. It has a soundtrack that makes it fun to watch as well. And it's a movie that's very fun to watch, especially if you're, like, drunk or high. But I still can't really give it a positive score, and so I'm just going to give Sucker Punch a 2. Thanks for watching this video. If you have seen Sucker Punch, go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this review, go ahead and smash that thumbs up icon, smash that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell as well to stay up to date on my Zack Snyder review series. We got the DC EU movies coming up next, which ought to be fun to talk about. And so I will return next time when I see you again.